Right. So we're really diving deep into this fascinating world of veterans in the business world today. You've given me a ton of stuff to work with. Looks like you're interested in more than just veterans finding jobs, right? You want to see how they're using their skills to really crush it out there.
Yeah, exactly. Six-figure salaries, starting companies.
A whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And it seems like everything you've sent points to this Richie Thomas and his military transition university as like a potential roadmap.
MTU.
MTU, yeah.
Yeah.
MTU, okay.
So what's fascinating here is how MTU seems to recognize that veterans already come equipped with like these incredible skills.
Right.
They've been trained, but for a totally different kind of battlefield.
Right.
So the challenge, and this is what MTU seems to address head on, is how do you bridge that gap between the military experience and then the expectations of, the corporate world.
So it's like translation, not reinvention.
Exactly.
It's not about telling veterans to toss out everything from their military background. It's about reframing it.
Yeah.
For a civilian audience.
Okay.
And actually, speaking of which, one of the things that that you highlighted was Richie's tagline. And forgive me if I don't get this exactly right, but it was something like teaching soldiers the battle of business so they can win the war on unemployment. Or something like that.
You've got it, yeah. And that tagline, it's more than just, clever marketing.
Yeah.
It gets to the heart of this issue, right? That, veteran unemployment rates have consistently been higher than the national average.
Right.
And that's a trend that MTU is directly challenging.
And they're not shying away from, like, using every tool at their disposal. It's kind of amazing.
Oh, yeah.
From what I've seen, MTU has really embraced the digital world in a way that a lot of organizations aimed at veterans just like haven't figured out yet.
Totally agree.
Like you shared some info about their mobile app,
yeah,
which has courses, coaching features, and it even seems to function as this like community hub for veterans at all different stages of their transition.
Yeah. And I think that's really smart on their part because that's how people consume information today.
Right.
Especially younger generations.
Yeah.
Who are, a significant portion of recent veterans.
Makes you wonder if they're this good at reaching veterans digitally, what are they doing in person? You mentioned something called your final marching orders.
Right.
But it's not what I expected. Usually you hear those words and you think someone's about to get discharged.
Yeah, for sure. But this is actually a presentation that's designed for active duty military personnel.
Okay.
Before they even transition out.
Wow.
So it's about getting ahead of the curve, planting those seeds of career planning and professional development while they're still in uniform.
Which, when you think about it, is brilliant.
Absolutely.
Because transitioning from military to civilian life, it's not like flipping a switch. It's a process. And the more prepared you are mentally and practically, the smoother that transition's likely to be.
Totally. And it looks like MTU provides some very specific tools to help with that process. One of the things you had flagged was a LinkedIn branding bootcamp.
Oh, that's interesting. We all know LinkedIn is important, but you don't always associate it with people coming from a military background.
Right.
Why the focus on LinkedIn specifically?
So it's actually very clever when you think about it.
Yeah.
For veterans, especially those who might not have a ton of experience navigating, the civilian job market, LinkedIn is invaluable.
Okay.
MTU is essentially teaching veterans how to leverage this platform to their advantage. This includes, crafting compelling profiles that highlight their unique skills and experience, but it also focuses on the strategic use of LinkedIn for networking.
Okay, so it's about visibility, but it's also about connecting with the right people.
Right.
And showcasing those skills in a way that resonates with civilian employers, many of whom, let's be honest, may not fully grasp how military experience translates into the business world.
Exactly. It's all about closing that understanding gap.
Yeah.
And it's not just about LinkedIn, it seems.
Okay.
From what you've gathered, MTU also offers something called BASIC business training.
Now that sounds intriguing. You have the materials there. What exactly does BASIC stand for? And what does the training entail?
You're right to key in on that. BASIC. It's not just a catchy name.
Right.
It actually stands for something very specific.
Okay.
Building a successful income career.
Okay.
And it seems to be one of the core components of MTU's approach.
Okay.
And it gets at the heart of what we've been talking about.
Right.
Equipping veterans with those sort of practical business-oriented skills that they might not have had the opportunity to develop.
Right, because they were,
during their
doing other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's about filling in those gaps, providing kind of a crash course in like the fundamentals of business.
Yeah.
But you're right. The name also suggests this real focus on building a career, not just finding a job.
Yeah.
Is that what you're seeing in the materials you've gathered?
Absolutely. And it goes back to, Ritchie's own philosophy,
Right.
this idea of veterans becoming business professionals.
Okay.
So this training seems to be about more than just
Right.
landing a 9 to 5.
Or punching the clock. Yeah.
Right, exactly. It's about empowering veterans to see themselves as entrepreneurs, as consultants, even thought leaders in their fields.
You've mentioned this concept of a like six-figure skill set a couple of times.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful idea. But how does MTU actually help veterans like identify and leverage those skills? Like what's their secret sauce?
That's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as saying you were in the military, therefore you have leadership skills.
Right.
They go much deeper than that. One of the documents you provided actually outlines Ritchie's method for kind of helping veterans connect the dots between their military experience and what employers are actually looking for.
Okay.
For instance, he encourages veterans to pinpoint like their top 3 transferable skills.
Okay.
And then he teaches them how to kind of package those skills for maximum earning potential.
So instead of just listing leadership on a resume, a veteran who was, say, in charge of logistics during a deployment might highlight their ability to, manage complex operations under pressure, optimize resources for efficiency, lead teams in high-stakes environments. Really.
Exactly. It's about reframing those experiences in a way that clicks for civilian employers.
Right.
And it seems like this is a big part of what they cover in the BASIC training.
Okay.
But they take it a step further with their focus on personal branding.
Which you got to admit is not something you typically associate with, like military training. It's almost like they're saying, okay, so forget everything you learned about blending in. Now it's time to stand out.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting.
It's a fascinating juxtaposition, isn't it?
It is.
But it's essential in today's, competitive job market.
Right.
MTU seems to understand that veterans need to control their narrative, own their stories, and present themselves in a way that highlights their unique value proposition.
So what does that look like in practice? Are we talking about like perfecting the elevator pitch, launching a personal website, maybe even like starting a podcast?
I think it's all of the above.
Wow.
You had shared some details about their $1 million map, which sounds like a comprehensive guide to building a personal brand and creating multiple streams of income.
Interesting.
They're not just saying, go out there and be successful. They're giving you a concrete plan. Which is really empowering, I think.
So from what you've seen, what does this $1 million map actually entail? Is it just about like starting your own business? Or are there other avenues they encourage veterans to explore?
So it seems to be a mix. While they definitely encourage entrepreneurship, they also recognize that not every veteran wants to start their own company. So they kind of lay out various paths to financial success, including, high-paying speaking engagements, writing books, even creating and selling online courses.
Interesting. So it's about like diversifying your income streams. Thinking outside the box, leveraging your skills in creative ways.
Yeah, and that's where that digital savviness comes into play again. Having that online presence, whether it's a website, a LinkedIn profile, a podcast, whatever, becomes crucial for attracting those opportunities.
It seems like MTU is bridging that gap between like traditional career advice and like the realities of today's digital world. They're preparing veterans not just for the jobs that exist, but for like the opportunities that they can create for themselves.
Yes, exactly. And what's particularly interesting is their focus on something they call passion projects.
Now that sounds intriguing. What are these passion projects all about?
So it's really pretty cool. Ritchie seems to get that for veterans finding fulfilling work, it's often, it's about more than just a paycheck. It's about purpose. It's about using your skills in a way that feels meaningful, and it's about aligning your work with, with your values. So these passion projects are all about helping veterans tap into that.
Okay, so it's about identifying those things that, that they're really passionate about, and then figuring out how to turn those passions into,
Right.
viable career paths
Yeah.
or like business ventures.
Yeah.
But how do you even begin to guide someone towards something that's so personal, It feels almost like career therapy.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely more personalized than
Right.
your average career counseling session.
Right.
From what I can gather, they use kind of a combination of assessments, exercises, and one-on-one coaching to help veterans sort of uncover those passions.
Oh.
It's not just about what did you do in the military.
Right.
It's more about what makes you tick, what are you naturally drawn to,
Yeah.
what kind of impact you want to have on the world.
That's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if we should all be incorporating a little more
Yeah.
passion into our career planning, regardless of whether we served in the military or not.
Totally.
But I'm curious,
Yeah.
are there any specific examples of these passion projects in action? Have you come across any stories of veterans turning their passions into successful businesses or,
Yeah, there are actually some really inspiring examples in these materials you provided. Remember how we were talking about Richie encouraging veterans to kind of package their knowledge into online courses or maybe write a book or coaching programs?
Right.
It looks like he's got several success stories of veterans doing just that.
Wow, so it's not just a pie in the sky idea.
No, it's really happening.
He's got proof of concept here.
Exactly. And a good example is there's this one veteran who was a combat medic.
Okay.
And he used that experience to launch this really successful business providing wilderness first aid training.
Wow, okay.
Which is amazing.
That's really cool.
And then another veteran who was a mechanic in the Air Force.
Okay.
Now teaches mechanic courses, but he does it all online, to a global audience.
That's amazing.
So it's really about identifying those niche areas where, their skills and experiences are super valuable.
That's incredible. It really speaks to the diversity of skills and experiences within the veteran community.
Yeah, for sure.
And it seems like MTU is really tapping into that.
Yeah.
Showing veterans that their options are way broader than they might initially realize.
Absolutely.
But, it's not all about individual success, is it?
Mm-hmm.
From what I've gathered, MTU also kind of emphasizes the importance of community and giving back.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where I think Richie's own military background really shines through.
Yeah.
He understands the power of camaraderie, the importance of having that support system, and the value of mentorship. And he really encourages veterans to, to connect with one another, share their experiences, offer support.
Okay.
He even suggests using your platform, using your business, whatever it is,
Right.
to advocate for other veterans,
Right.
support veteran-owned businesses.
It's he's not just building a network.
Right.
He's building a movement almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this whole focus on community, on giving back, I think it ties back to that sense of purpose we were talking about earlier. It's about, finding fulfillment, not just in your own success, but in helping others succeed as well.
There's one thing that keeps coming back to me as we've been, unpacking all of this is it's Richie's own story.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't see this level of passion and commitment from someone who's just in it for the money. He's walking the walk. And it's clear that his own journey, going from, soldier to this $1 million entrepreneur is a huge part of what makes MTU so effective.
It's that authenticity, that lived experience that goes beyond, textbook business advice.
Right.
He's living proof that it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And he's created this system to help other veterans achieve that same level of success.
Yeah. And that's such a powerful message to send to veterans who might be struggling.
Right.
To find their footing in the civilian world.
Right.
He's not just saying, you can do it. He's saying, I did it, and I'm here to show you how.
Yeah.
It's about hope. It's about empowerment. And I think it's really about, changing the narrative around what's possible for veterans after they leave the service.
So we've talked about, Richie's approach, the tools that he provides, the importance of, mindset and branding. But for anyone listening who's thinking, this all sounds great, but, where do I even begin?
Yeah.
What would you say is, the most important takeaway?
I think the most important thing is just to recognize that your military experience is valuable. You know, you have skills, you have knowledge, and you have a unique perspective that is in high demand in the business world.
Right.
Don't underestimate yourself. Don't shy away from your service.
Right.
Embrace it, own it, and find ways to leverage it to your advantage.
And if you're not sure where to start, seek out resources. Connect with organizations like MTU.
Yes.
Find mentors who can help you, navigate this transition. Because when veterans succeed, we all benefit. Now, here's something to think about. MT's approach focuses on empowering, individuals. But how might their model be adapted to create, systemic change and address, the root causes of veteran unemployment and underemployment on a, broader scale?